Hello, and welcome to another exclusive interview as part of the Excellence series, where we discuss with real people their best practice and unconventional wisdom in leveraging defining moments. My name is Scott Kokenauer. I'm your host, and I'm so glad you've taken time out to tune in. Today, our guest is Marc Snyderman. He is not your traditional lawyer or management consultant. He spent his entire career in the business of making companies better and finding solutions that are right for his clients. His education includes Dickinson College, Rutgers School of Law, Camden, and University of Notre Dame, Mendoza School. And so Marc has been in transition. We kind of connected on LinkedIn, and he has learned a lot. So I couldn't help but speak with him and talk to him about these transitions. Welcome, Marc.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here today.
So let's get started with a little bit about you.
Sure.
Where are you from, and what are you involved in these days?
So I am from the southern New Jersey area outside Philadelphia. So I grew up in a town called Cherry Hill, which many people have heard of because it had one of the first enclosed malls in the United States. Really,
Okay.
real big claim to fame. Uh, so I've spent most of my time in the Northeast. Um, I currently have a law practice that specializes in helping small and mid-sized businesses using a subscription-based outside general counsel model. But I also have a management consulting firm, and I am an angel investor in a couple different projects, and have a couple startups of my own as well. So I keep myself pretty busy.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Now, you have experienced what it's like to go through a transition or two in your lifetime.
hmm
Could you take us to one of those transitions? What was it? What
Sure.
did you
I
make?
think the big transition, because I call myself, I'm a serial entrepreneur, but it's really latter stage. I started off as a young guy, as a kid. My dad always had businesses in the auto industry, so we had everything from auto parts stores to dealerships. So I started working when I was 8 years old, and I would say I've never stopped. I started my own business at 17, at 18, at 19, and then decided that I wanted to see what corporate America was like. And I went into, I got my law degree. I went to a law firm. I didn't like that. I went to a public company. I didn't like that. Went to a privately held company that was doing engineering and IT services. And I actually helped grow that company significantly. I spent the better part of, actually, I was there from 2002 till 2016. And I ran the company. I was the chief operating officer from 2007 till 2016.
Mhm.
And at that point, I had grown the company, with the help of everybody around me. We grew it from about 75 employees up to 300. So we were doing about 60 million in business. It was a really nice company.
Mhm. Sounds
And,
great.
I made a transition out. So you say, well, what sparked that transition to
Yeah,
leave?
right.
And I look back, and it was a great job, great company, great people. I had a difference of opinion, I would say, with where the company was going to go going forward and how far we were going to try to push it. And that would have required, a private equity recapitalization, something along those lines. And the owners that didn't want to do that at the time. And to be honest, it was boring. Without knowing that there was another phase to it.
Mhm.
I couldn't see just staying the same. I always say that when a company's going this way and it's in the growth model, you have issues.
Right.
There's a lot of issues around you.
Mhm.
When you're flat or going down, what you called an issue here is now a problem.
True. That's true. So the spark, let me stay with that spark for a moment
Yeah.
because that's something that we all uh, go through multiple sparks, and the problem is we don't always leverage those sparks. We don't always pay attention to them.
Oh yeah.
This spark that you experienced, it started kind of with a difference of opinion or a different viewpoint, and then that led to you looking to the future and seeing what was written on the wall, so to speak. And so could you consider this transition a gradual thing or more instantaneous?
It was a long. It started. It took probably 3 or 4 years for it to unfold.
Wow.
For me to make a decision to leave what I had been working on and literally pouring my life into.
Yeah.
And I think it sent me. I am a workaholic. I know that about myself. I mean,
Mhm.
I drive at hard work, and it's like I said, it's been in me since I was 8 years old, and it's
Mhm.
how I grew up. But it drove, and a lot of factors go into what drives depression, but it
Mhm.
all drove me into depression. Had I probably had, scenes of it earlier in my life, of course, right?
Yeah.
Never knew what it was, never recognized it, didn't try to deal with it. But it
Mhm.
had it got bad. I was in a really dark place in a
Yeah.
bad part of my life,
Yeah.
and it drove me to get help, to seek that kind of help that I needed, and it then drove a lot of what ended up being the decision to leave. Was as I start to unravel in therapy, what were the causes,
Mhm.
and to realize that I just wasn't happy doing what I was doing.
Right. Right. Let me stay with that depression thing because I'm sure that there's there are some who are watching this or listening to this podcast, and they're secretly
Yeah,
fighting depression. They have not told anybody because it's a sign of weakness that they think,
yeah.
but it's not. And I'm going to pull up here. You've written a chapter in a book called "Leading Through the Pandemic: Unconventional Wisdom from Heartfelt Leaders." I would encourage all of you listening or watching this to get a copy of that. I went straight to Mark's chapter, which is chapter 14, and I was struck by a paragraph about depression. If you don't mind, I'll read a couple of sentences from this. Is that all right?
Yeah, of course.
Depression is different for everyone. For me, it's like a giant dark hole that opens up, and without falling, somehow you're just at the bottom, like being in a cave. All you do is seek out any bit of light, that there's at least a way out. This didn't happen day 1 or even day 20. It was around day 45 when I realized this pandemic wasn't ending anytime in the near future. Man, what a challenge this pandemic has been, right?
Hmm.
And so the transition that you are talking about, this 3-year process,
Hmm.
which has nothing to do with your inability to make a decision, right? I mean,
Right.
you're a go-getter. Someone might say, "Well, 3 years, why didn't you just pull the plug right away?" Well, it's not that easy, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have, there's family, there's, bills and expenses, but it's also, trying to figure out, I am deeply, I run my companies, people first. And, a lot of people say that they're people first,
Right.
but they're not really people first. They're just
Mhm.
window dressing. I really like to believe that I've always stood by that and stood by my people.
Mm.
So to think that I was going to leave the company that I was helping build, it was hard, and it's a hard decision to say I'm running a company and helping manage a company that has 300 employees. I have 40 direct reports. I was a you're in demand. You're
Mhm.
the guy, right?
Right.
And to know that I was going to leave that and all of a sudden be sitting in an office or in my house by myself with no one supporting me and no one around me and no one to report to me, it was a tough decision.
Mhm. What was the most difficult part of transitioning out? I mean, there are a lot of difficult things about
Yeah,
transition. For you, what was the most difficult part?
I actually think it was the not having the people around me all the time. I'm a
Mm,
people person. I like to talk a lot, and it wasn't even the I'm lucky that I had a solid client base. Like literally the day I walked out, I had one or two really good clients, including my old company.
mhm,
It wasn't like we were leaving. It wasn't like it was the end of the world, blow up the world. It
right,
was this is what's best for me and what's probably going to be best for you because this isn't going to work, going forward the way it is.
Yeah.
So it was mutual, in a sense.
Mhm.
And, this is what I needed, and because I needed to do that, then they needed to do that. And it was a good, so it wasn't the money, it wasn't it was really, the fact that I wasn't going to have anybody to report to me and to manage and to help structure and mentor and build with. So that really became the hardest. I would say that was, for me, was the hardest part.
So you're downstairs in your office at home after having 40 reports, pe- people who report to you, and 300 employees. What was it like that first couple of weeks?
Oh, you're literally staring at the computer, going, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do." Like, I don't have, like, man. I had a big whiteboard, a big glass board in my office that had,
Yeah.
like, 100 different things on it. And I used to say, like, when you run a company that size, it's a pretty decent sized company. I mean, nothing like,
Mhm.
some go run like, billion-dollar industries, but it's all relative, right? Everything's at
Right.
scale,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I used to say, everybody's, "Well, what's it like during the day?" Well, put 100 balls in the air and run around and try to keep them all in the air.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
my day.
Uh-huh.
So, you knew that every day, which you didn't really know what was going to happen, but you knew you were going to be busy and doing things all day long. So
Mhm.
when I landed, all of a sudden you're, fast forward and you're sitting at your desk, you're like, I don't have 100 balls in the air yet. Like, what do
Mhm.
I do?
So did the depression come back at all during
During
those?
that time, no.
Okay.
No, I mean, it really. I only saw it again, bad. The beginning of, like when, with the part you read in the book,
Mhm.
from COVID,
Yeah.
when I started to see it really start to really want to phase itself in.
Yeah.
I'll also say that, I am on medication, which
Mhm.
helps a lot.
Right.
I know that there's a lot of stigma to saying you have depression. There's a lot of stigma to saying you're on medication,
Mhm.
and it takes. I don't say it's. I hate to say people when people say you're courageous for saying it. I don't think
Mhm.
it's courage. I think it's just honesty,
It is what it
and
is, right?
it is what it is, and it's part of my life.
Yep.
And but I do think that this stigma that's out there, that about being on medication and being a professional, that you can't. Well, you
Mhm.
can.
You
People
can.
do it
Yes.
all the time. There's way
There's
more people doing it than are doing it.
That's right. That's right.
They
There's
just,
one.
they're afraid to admit it. And and especially, I'd say men's health awareness, men's mental health awareness is its own topic,
Mhm.
in and of itself, that people are, men are just afraid to talk about it.
Well, I will not one up you, but I will
Yeah,
add to the conversation here.
yeah.
There are 2 of us on this call, on this interview, who are not only lifetime battlers of depression, but are on medication. So, there you
Thank you
go.
for saying that.
There's 2 of us,
Yeah,
and
that's two
I
of us,
have
right?
been for years.
Yeah.
Years. You just look for those early warning signs and take care of yourself,
Hmm.
create great rhythm, exercise. The one thing I don't have that I read about in the chapter that you wrote was you got a stand-up desk. I've got to get one of those.
Yeah, it is really good. It's great for balancing yourself, plus just to give yourself something to move to during the day.
Mhm.
You kind of just, at some points, getting some standing in and just feel better. I
Right.
get in a better, I tend to be in a better flow when I'm standing than when I'm sitting.
Yeah. Yeah. So what did you learn, when you transitioned from 40 direct reports to being in your office at home and staring at a screen? What did you learn most about yourself and your life purpose?
Well, I think it is when it really started to kick in that, what I like to do and what is most fulfilling to me is actually helping. It's being that, that helper to companies that, can help them see not only, the legal side of things, but really their whole outlook and position and brand position and strategic, you know, n- understanding of where they're going, right?
Mhm.
And why are they getting there?
Mm.
I've done a lot of, I read a lot of management books, and you have to take every one of them with a grain of salt, right? But I
Right.
always say, like, you take every single one of them, and if you add them all up, you start to build your paradigm, what works for you.
Yep. Mm.
And one of the ones, so I love Dan Pink and I love Simon Sinek, right?
Right.
They're two of my favorites.
Yep.
And
Mm.
Simon Sinek, I mean, if for those who haven't, seen the Golden Circle of Why and watched that TED Talk, you have to watch it, right? It's
Yep.
like
Start with
it
why.
is game changing. It is, you need to understand that piece of, why people buy what you do, you know,
Mhm.
you know, and why, and understanding your why. And I don't think I really got my why, the first few years of doing what I was doing. It was kind of like, all right, I'm trying to build something, make some money, get to the next thing. And I had this concept of, sort of building like landing strips all over the place for people that I know in my career that have helped me
Mhm.
and that I know that could run something, and me being, I know what I'm really good at, which is, sort of seeding in concepts and structuring and building. And I used to be the operations person, and I don't necessarily want to be that anymore.
Mhm.
I want to have like 10 or 12, maybe more, of these projects running. So that's really what's happened in the last year.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So if you could say anything to the executive who's listening today, and in their heart, they're sensing a spark
Yeah.
in their life and they don't know how to proceed, what would you say to them?
I would say to, really think about what it is you really want to be doing, and more importantly than what it is, why do you want to do it? What
Mhm.
is your why? And
Mhm.
if what you're doing isn't meeting that why, you're not doing yourself a service. You're
Right.
doing yourself a disservice, and honestly you're doing everybody around you a disservice, because
Mhm.
you're not doing what you're best at, because
Right.
it's not your reason. So
Right.
find that spark and chase it,
That's
and
that's great.
and just go with it, and you will be much happier. And yeah, maybe you won't make as much money. That's okay.
That's
I'm okay with it, right? It's fine
right.
with me.
Mhm.
People ask me like, I did better before. It wasn't as hard. Than have to chase people for money. I get clients that have, you get clients that don't pay you. So, well, you're a lawyer, can't you just chase them? No, it's the
Yeah.
same thing as anybody else. Chasing somebody for money, right? If they
Sure.
don't have it or they're not going to pay it,
Right.
how far are you going to go to the end of time to chase somebody down for a bill that they didn't pay?
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah. So find out your why and live that. You said something very profound there. You're not just doing yourself a disservice, you're doing those around you and those who you
Hmm.
could influence a disservice.
Yeah,
Um, my definition of excellence is the act of becoming the fullest expression of your unique God-given design. Because when you are fulfilling that for which you were created, and it's not just one thing, it's multiple things.
yeah,
Um, you can speak to people like no one else can speak to them. You can serve like no one else can serve. And so
yeah.
that's very profound advice. Mark, I need to have you on another interview and we need to talk more. But
Anytime.
unfortunately, we're out of time right now. And thank you so much for taking your time to share with us.
No, thanks for having me on.
I'm going to put the link to the book in the show notes. And you can reach Mark at Marc Snyder, that's MARC, Snyder.com, to find out more about what he does. This has been another exclusive interview as part of the Excellence series where we discuss with real people their best practice and unconventional wisdom in leveraging their defining moments. My name is Scott Kokenauer, and I'm so glad you've taken time out to tune in. I'll see you on the next